Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's the month of October, and this means that it's actually ORKTOBER. So it is finally time that I get started on the last of my unpainted orcs, namely Ghazghkull. You may remember last year that I painted the Ghazghkull and Makari, and while I really wanted to have some time to work on Ghazghkull, that was not really a possibility. Uh, that was because he's really big, and yeah, he takes a long time with enormous amount of details, and I really wanted to do him justice. Now, you can already see that I have done a little bit of work last year on him. I just barely got to lay down the base coat for his skin with some orc flesh, I believe, and that was done using the airbrush, and there was a lot of spillway. Now I'm just highlighting and adding a bit of contrast to him, work on his skin, but that's it. I'm not gonna retouch up on the skin because it's really hard to paint him while he is fully assembled, especially the skin parts. This was you have to take into account that I was complete anew when I assembled him, and I made it really hard for myself to get into each and every nook and cranny that I wanted to paint. So I had to do my best and reach as many places as I want without trying to damage the model, even though in the end I was forced to separate them from the base towards the end, and I don't think I have that film because the final touches I was not able to fully film. But trust me, the entire process is long enough, because while you may see it in some of the shots, trust me when I say this is actually sped up quite a lot from what I usually sped up my videos of painting, and you can see that right now it looks relatively natural while painting because I really took my time with him. And what I'm trying to say is that this was a very difficult model to paint, and I did plenty of new techniques for me, and got into some really tight spaces. But when you're dealing with a model as complex as this one, I highly recommend working in sub-assemblies. It matters quite a lot, and it's going to really help you paint everything. Especially for me, since I'm a beginner and can't really get my hands where I really want them to go. I'm getting better at it, but I'm still having my own difficulties. Right, so the skin tone is an amalgamation of different colors, especially for the shadows, the base tone, and the highlights. I don't really remember each of them, and most of them may have been mixes of colors. Or you're seeing me painting his loincloth with some red. I think I used corn red for this, and yeah, I think by simple practice I can now get the paint to the consistency that everyone is calling skim milk, and this just comes naturally after you paint a few models. Trust me, I always wanted like a mathematical formula for calculating this. I don't know, 2 drops, even in percentages like 20%, 30%, whatever, something of like that. But no matter how many times I tried, even though I got it was either too diluted or not diluted enough, and I always ended up either having too thick or too thin of a paint. But now that I've done this a few times, it just comes natural. So for any beginner out there, I highly recommend to just go ahead and do it. Get some sacrifice models, so to say, that's models that you're comfortable learning on, and just practice these techniques to thin paint. Now it's much easier, and especially when using a wet palette, this is really easy. Alright, it's going to be a while I paint each and every detail, so I was thinking that during this time I was also going to try and talk about some of the lore regarding Ghazghkull, even though I might not be, I'm not gonna say accurate, because I'm not a lore YouTuber yet. I'm trying to become. I know a lot of it. I'm the guys I look at constantly, that I tend to watch. When you dedicate this much time over the past few years to Warhammer and read as many books as I have, I'm starting to find little tidbits here and there that I understood differently from them, or that I would have interpreted differently from the lore YouTubers. So I'm not saying I'm right and they're wrong. I'm just saying I have a different opinion now because I've read, and it seems to me that in order to for them to make a short video or an interesting video, they may skip a few details here and there, details which I find intriguing and so on and so forth. But I was hoping that I would do some talking about Ghazghkull. That is the intro to this segment, but as you can see, I'm already failing absolutely miserable at making a decent lore intro. Making these videos takes quite a long time, and having a script and everything, which is something that I absolutely do not have at the moment. I do plan on making lore videos and getting into this stuff, but just further down the line. Now, let me, before I get into the lore part, we have gotten to another segment. So, I primed this model black and gave it a zenithal highlight of white from above, as well as then dry brushed everything with gray and then with white to edge highlight and to get as much contrast as possible. And he looks absolutely great as is, but there are segments that I wanted to bring the black back. That's also over certain portions that were covered when I painted the tiny pieces of visible skin, and using the airbrush in such a small confined space, especially since my airbrush is absolutely the crappiest model you could possibly imagine. I had to bring back the black, and over where the green tone was visible for black metal and so on. So yeah, that's basically what I did. As I'm recording this, I'm also trying to edit a bit the parts where it's less interesting, or where I move the model slightly out of camera view. Now, the thing is, this video is already on the long side, and while I promised myself I would never put myself in a position where I have to do like a 2-hour recording voiceovers for a video, it has not been easy. Again, I put a lot of heart and soul into these and a lot of time, and when it comes down to actually trimming down the videos, I'm not very comfortable taking everything and chopping it to such a length that I have to reduce it to like 50 minutes. And the raw footage for these videos were roughly 10 to 12 hours long. And fortunately, I have found a small open source program that allows me to automatically cut out the dead air where nothing happens in the video, where, for example, the break of the video on the table for quite some time. And after using such a program, I'm down to, or when nothing important happens in the video, like I don't know, just sitting around looking at a in a fixed position, that miniature that gets also cut. So after using such a tool, I'm down to like 4 hours. When I apply the speed up technique, I'm down to 2, and less than 2. It depends. Again, we're talking experiments here, not that. But the thing is, the point I was trying to make is I'm then having quite a difficult time trimming down the videos further and cutting out non-essential bits. And I kind of like the long format videos. I'm kind of sick and tired of society making everything 10 seconds, you get your interest, and even people are way too much in a hurry. And especially this hobby is supposed to be time consuming, and it should take a long time, and it should be fun. If you're not having fun, and if you don't do it to fill up your time, then it's not a hobby. Anyway, I'm just saying. Getting a little bit back on track to what I'm doing over here is I am painting his claw, started on some metallic parts with, again, colored red. And in case you're wondering what my holder is, I should have commented on it, but I found this little jar. I think it was for some pesto. Anyway, the thing is, once it was used up, I used it for holding water for painting and so on and so forth. And since most of the lids are metallic, I can easily attach some magnets to large miniatures such as Ghazghkull, and I can use that small jar as a holder for the miniature. The problem was that it was really light, and the weight of the miniature constantly caused it to topple. So I just took some ball bearings that I had bought in a kit for mixing paints, and I had large ones that could not be used for that, and I just put it at the bottom of the jar, and now it's very bottom heavy and it doesn't fall over. One of the things that I did when I assembled the miniature was that I did not drill the barrels of his custom cannon. So since I now also have the drill bit holder and everything, I decided to do it now, and it looks much better. I also drilled several of the holes on the outside to make it look the way I liked it, and drilled every big hole that I could. And yeah, it looks good. I understand why Games Workshop don't drill the holes, don't make the models have drilled holes, but especially for these sort of big miniatures, they do have those tiny little dimples inside that should like simulate the entryway, the hole in the barrel, but it looks more good. And now I have that drill holder, and it's really awesome. I tried a bit of edge highlighting with a bit of Fletch Bits Yellow added to the Mephiston Red, and it looked quite well, but I'm not really thrilled. I think there is a way for me to actually enjoy edge highlighting, and I'm going to do this going further, especially for metallic bits and so on and so forth. It involves not doing it with a lighter color or adding a bit of yellow into a red, something like that. Instead, I will try to use the underlining material as if the edge was actually scraped against something. So for something metallic, you would use a metallic color to a silver color to back the edges, and then if you really wanted to push it further, I'm thinking maybe rust effect on those edges where like a brown wash or an orange wash again to simulate rust. That seems like a really good idea. Okay, while I handle a lot of the details, you will see me using lots of red, lots of whites, lots of different colors, but I try to keep it as close to the box art as I can make it. I wanted initially to try like a millimeter minis purple or, but it's not really my cup of tea, so I went again with the Goth motif. And while I don't know that much about the orcs and the clans, I do know a bit, but not really in depth lore. But I know they're like the toughest orcs because black is the toughest color, so on and so forth. I'll get into the colors at some point, maybe during this video, maybe not. But this is something that is one of the greatest things about orcs and the Warhammer. They're like the funniest faction, I think, and that's saying something since there are literal, you know, harlequins who dance and perform during combat. But honestly, I think the orcs have the most fun in the entire set. They're just there to fight and have fun. Come to think about it, that kind of is true for the Space Wolves. I'm kidding. Well, sort of. But it is, you know, they enjoy it. But they also kind of, you know, think that they're... never, I'm talking about Space Wolves. We should talk about Orcs and Ghazghkull. Right, so, a little primer for everybody. So, in the Warhammer 40k, orcs are sentient mushrooms that love to fight. That's it. And they were created by the old ones to fight the Necrons in the Khan. That was 60 million years ago, and they were made as crocs, which are ginormous, big, angry mushrooms that will literally beat everyone in a matter of microseconds, and they were just the foot soldiers. It was a weird time. But then, after they didn't have anybody to fight with, and they couldn't really, you know, evolve, since all of their evolution was based on fighting, they kind of devolved, and now they're just orcs, and they really just enjoy fighting, even amongst themselves, even without races. It doesn't matter. They're the best, and they want to fight. That's their whole shtick. The more they fight, the bigger they get, the stronger they get, the more they multiply, and so on and so forth. Additionally, they have this psychic field around them, which means the more orcs there are, the more the smarter they get, and the more advanced technology they instinctively know how to make. So yeah, basically, once they get going, unless there is a sufficient enough force to stop them, they'll just keep growing and getting smarter and making more stuff. And this can be quite problematic for the other races in the galaxy, which is why most other races just try and keep these guys into check and don't let them grow too big. Oh yeah, the funny thing is when a group of orcs gets large enough, they become a Wah, which is like their name for everything, and it's also their battle cry. So whenever you see an orc, and that's the way you have to say it absolutely every time. So you don't say Wah, you say Wah, and that is absolutely how you have to say it. It doesn't matter when they say in a sentence like we need to meet up with a Wah, they say we need to meet up with a Wah, or let's kill those guys, Wah. It doesn't matter. They always have to say it like that. And I will not say it anymore because my throat hurts. Right. And that's why all the races in the galaxy don't really allow them to get really big Wahs. Oh god, I think this is like a rite of passage for the people to do. Anyway, as I was saying, getting back, that's the orcs, and they also have their own gods, which are Gork and Mork, and they are again the two most funniest gods. Why? Because they are orc gods, so they spend all of their time just fighting each other. That's what they do. Oh yeah, and one is cunning and brutal, and the other one is brutal and cunning. You figure out which. Whole wars amongst orcs have been fought on which god is brutal and cunning and which is cunning and brutal. So I think you get the message. But who is this Ghazghkull and why is he important? Well, Ghazghkull right now is the prophet of the Wah, the prophet of Gork and Mork. Because, you see, Ghazghkull was just like any other orc boy. He woke up, he felt like he needed to smash something, so he found the smasher, which is their term for anything that is an instrument that is blunt, and started smashing things around him. Other orcs, space marines, whatever happened. So he was a boy. As orcs get bigger as they fight, he became a knob, so on. And then during one of these moments where he was fighting on I think a munitions depot world for the Astartes, his warband wanted to attack a munitions depot of the Astartes, which had only atomic defenses, not even a full space marine, but they had tarantula sentry guns or something like that, and due to either a lucky shot or simply Gork and Mork's intervention, his head was blown off. Not his head, actually his skull was blown off. So one bolter round found his forehead and exploded his head. And you're gonna say, well, gee, that's kind of fatal. But not for orcs. See, while orcs do have brains, they're not that important to them. Just I'll let you ponder that for a second. Orc brains are not important for orcs. Alright, so our little boy Gaz over here was taken, of course, to the orc medic because, you know, he was still alive. Just, you know, kind of, you know, missing a chunk of his brain. And, of course, the orc doc, if you can actually call them that, because their technical names are pain boys. Again, take a second to ponder that. This doc put his head back basically shoved everything back inside and found a piece of metal from the ass plate of a Space Marine Terminator and bolted that on Gaz's head in order for him to keep everything inside. Yes, I am not kidding. These are like the funniest guys I could possibly imagine. Again, while the rest of the faction is serious or into BDSM or space bugs of death and you know, just really horrible people with horrible agendas, these guys just use the ass plate of a Terminator suit to put on somebody's head. Yes. The Doc's mentality was that it was the only thing large enough to keep his skull in. But yes, that's how it happened. When Ghazghkull finally woke up, he started having headaches and, of course, visions from Gork and Mork. And that's basically his origin story, except that he was still not this big. He was still a knob. But now, with his newfound enlightenment powers given to him by Gork and Mork, he was then able, of course, to further rise through the ranks and challenge his boss. When Mork gets big enough, he becomes a boss and he's in charge of the knobs, or in charge of the boys. And then there are, of course, Gretchen and the Rutlings, and I'm just spewing out terms. So, there, I mentioned that the orcs are much. This is a different tangent. We're going far away from the story. This is more from explaining what orcs are and how their society functions. So, orcs come in multiple species. So, orcs are the biggest and the strongest, and they keep growing. But there are also Gretchens. Gretchens are really small, smaller than human, orcoids. Let's use that term. And they are treated by orcs as slave labor if they cannot find any other species, and even if they do find any other species on the galaxy. And these guys are, while they are somewhat smarter, because they have to be because they're smaller, they are relatively cowardly because, again, they're smaller, and they're much more sneaky and cunning. That's the way they think of themselves. Then you have the Rutlings, which are like smaller even than Gretchens, and they're picked on by everybody because, again, the smaller you are in our society, the weaker and more picked on you get. And of course, on a parallel evolutionary trait are the Squigs, which are like, how should I explain it? Squigs are, if you took a dog, cut off its front legs and made it bipedal, or maybe even, a chicken, because it's a bipedal thing, and put on a shark's head on it, and made it 10 times as aggressive as a shark, and decided to really ham it out. And that is the orcs' main source of food, squigs. And of course, even these come in different shapes and sizes, and you have the small squigs and the largest which can actually be ridden on by orcs, and then you have the squigots, which are like gargantuan beasts. But the thing is that I don't get is that squigots actually have 4 legs, whereas squigs, evil riders, have 2. I just had a brain aneurysm trying to figure this thing out, but they look cool. All of them look cool. Just saying. Alright. Enough of this. Where was I regarding Gaz's story? Right. So he kind of got bigger, fighting and so on, until he finally challenged his boss and defeated his boss, becoming in single combat and becoming the new boss of his band. I forgot to mention that all this occurred on a small planetoid moon, something that was about to be destroyed due to a black hole or a gravity effect. I don't really remember. It's not that relevant. But Gaz, having visions from Gork and Mork, realized that there was a wall forming nearby. He just needed to get there before the planet was destroyed. So he formulated the plan to get the orcs to actually be able to leave that planet. So he gathered as many orcs as possible, grew his size, made a small wall, and was finally able to leave the planet and join the big wall, where he kept growing and taking and becoming bigger and bigger and joining and taking over the wall. So now I don't remember. By the way, okay, that's like the intro to Ghazghkull, Prophet of the Walk. That is like the intro. That's like 1/3 of the book, I think. I don't remember all that much because I read it a long time ago. I was planning on listening or reading it before making this video, but unfortunately life had other plans for me. So this is just what I'm remembering from the top of my head. The thing was, in the book we find out from an inquisitor who is interrogating Makari about who Ghazghkull is and why he's not dead. And during the course of the book we find out that Gork and Mork actually have a vested interest in Ghazghkull, in keeping him alive. And I did not really explain who Makari is. Makari is one of the grid urchins working for the dock that put Gaz's head back on, and who will have a more important part to play later on during our story. But yes, Makari is going to become Gaz's sort of ish closest friend, and I use the term friend quite loosely here because remember, Makari is Gretchen and they are orc slave caste. It's really complicated, but again, this includes spoilers and a lot of wildly over the place facts and stuff that we learned from the books and lore bits. But what I'm trying to say is that Makari thinks that since he has become associated and has helped out Ghazghkull several times and he has been by his side, Gork and Mork have also taken a shine to him, and whenever he dies, he comes back. Both Makari and Ghazghkull to a certain amount of degrees through one way or another. So no matter what you do, there will always be a Ghazghkull and a Makari, no matter how much you kill him. Come to think about it, let's put out a wild theory out there. What if Ghazghkull and Makari are like the first orc perpetuals that can actually retain their memories when they come back, and they sort of reincarnate into other bodies and so on and so forth? And what if, this is like the wildest speculation ever, but just think about it, there are similarities to some degree with Ghazghkull being the Emperor and Makari being Olania's person. All. And wouldn't that be a thing? Just think about it. So there's that huge power dynamic with the Emperor being himself and Olania's just being a normal human, just being able to never die. And isn't it kind of like the same with Ghazghkull being this huge orc and Makari just being like the Gretchen? It's kind of like the same thing when you think about it. Wouldn't that be? Anyway, write in the comments below if you think it's a little too much of a coincidence. And anyway, I was saying that this is what Makari thinks, that he always helps Ghazghkull reincarnating. The Ghazghkull sort of manifests Makari's reincarnation whenever Makari dies, because we know that Makari died several times. Even he knows this, that there were times where he couldn't have survived, yet he did, and he was always brought back, and he had his memories in it. But we then find out that after, like, and this is where it gets a little fuzzy for me, and I might be wrong, but I think after one of the failed invasions of Armageddon, where Ghazghkull was defeated and he was completely decapitated, what Makari does is manages somehow to get his head, and he brings it to the doctor that first fixed his head, that put the plate on his over his brain to cover it up. And this dog apparently has been working non-stop and has managed to get an even bigger body for Ghazghkull, and so he just literally sews his head on the bigger, badder body, and Ghazghkull is saved. Now, yes, I know this is like a shocker, but like I said, brains are not that important for orcs. So yes, Gaz is not the only one who has been the benefit of a whole body transplant when it comes to orcs. So yes, that's how Gaz got this great big body. And or I might be wrong. Again, it's really, I don't really recall these parts of the book. I know at some point Ragnar fought with I said Ragnar. Yeah, Ragnar Blackmane fought with Ghazghkull, and I think Ragnar defeated him, but I don't know how badly. I don't remember. I know, but I don't remember. Like I said, I didn't have time to check. But I think he managed to run away, or whether or not Ragnar cutoff is. I don't really remember. It's a little fuzzy right now for me. I think I'm coming down with a cold as well. I think I'm still a little nasally. I'm taking something, but it doesn't seem to have worked. Again, sorry about that. Back to what I was saying. That is most of the story that we find out in like the book. There are plenty of other things happening, but these were the most important ones occurring with around Ghazghkull and Makari. But there are plenty of awesome things that happen in the book, and I highly recommend if you want to know more about Ghazghkull, getting that book. Again, it's called Ghazghkull, Prophet of the Bog, I think. So yeah, get it. I listened to it as an audiobook, and I just listened to it as an audiobook because it was awesome, and I can't recommend it. Get that book if you like books. Right, I'm gonna give my brain a little bit of time to stop thinking about lore and just tell you what I did. I used lead belcher on what I did when painting them. I used lead belcher on his claw to give it a base coat, and then I used like a orange wash to simulate a bit of rust in between like the ridges of his claw, and then I will edge highlight with rune fang steel across all of the edges, as well as do another wash with null oil in the recesses to give shading, and then again re-edge highlight with rune fang steel and a bit of more washing with an orange wash to simulate rust. For his custom blaster shooter cannon, I used again lead belcher and a lot of Rune Lord brass for the shell casings, and black and other colors for the details. All of the rivets were either painted with Rune Lord brass or with lead belcher or rune fang steel, and then given a wash of either orange wash to simulate rust to give it that feeling, or a teal wash to simulate like not rust. I don't know what the word is, because rust is for iron, for the copper rust effects, the copper thingy, oxidation, that was the word, for the copper oxidation thingy. The rivets that I painted with Rune Lord brass. The overall feeling is that it's a really old, worn out battle suit that I went for, and it honestly came out looking good. I loved it. It's not gonna be winning any competitions, but tabletop is absolutely ready and amazing. This is kind of the thing that I want to focus on at the moment. I really want to get all of my miniatures painted to a decent standard that I can comfortably use in any game on the tabletop. And once I'm done with Ghazghkull, I'm definitely finishing Dawn's Ghosts, and then I want to get started on my armies, because most of them have not even been assembled yet, meaning half of the Space Wolves and the relatively recent bought Tau Combat Patrol, relatively recent meaning almost 6 months that I haven't even touched the box. But I still have my Tyranids from nullify the boxes that have not been painted. And since I finished and I figured out the paint scheme, I am going to do that. Pick out all of the pyramids, since they're all assembled and you just need primed and paint. So that's exactly what I'm going to do once Ghazghkull and Ghazghkull Thraka. I'm going to focus on getting those done. Once that is done, it's time to assemble and paint the Tower Combat Control, because it's smaller than the other one, and then the 2000 points space one bar. God, that's insane. But by then, I really should have good flow with armies, because that's gonna be a really, really big one. Okay, back to Ghazghkull. You know, I like to talk during these videos about my plans for the future. It makes me put a little bit of perspective in it, and even though I just said let's go back to Ghazghkull, I have to get it off my brain, all of this. And now that I think about it, while I will add like a lore tag in this video, I know not many people are that interested in this, and I know I'm a really small channel, really small channel, and I really hope some of you enjoy me painting and talking about my hobbies and the lore and so on and so forth. Who knows, maybe it will come to something. So if you reach this part and I haven't even mentioned at the start, you know, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share it with a friend, torture him, send him a video of me talking 2 hours about a fictional orc in a sci-fi setting while painting him, and a lot of other crap that comes to my head while doing all of this. What else do I remember about Ghazghkull? He's big, he had his head transplanted, he can't really die as long as he has Gork and Mork's favor, despite the fact that the book is about him. He honestly barely has any first-hand, he doesn't have a direct presence in the sense that he is the main character, but he's mostly seen from other people's perspective, other characters' perspective. So one of the perspectives is of course the human perspective by the Inquisition and the characters present there, and the other is from the perspective of the orcs that are being interrogated, which are of course Makari and one of the Blood Axes, which are orc mercenaries who are sometimes in the employ of the Imperium, which is, you know, a contradiction to itself, but Warhammer is created on contradictions. So for every this is the way that things work, there's an immediate answer, except when that happens. Right, so yeah, that's all that I can think about saying Ghazghkull at the book. I'm gonna do another video, and I promise to work on my thoughts during all of these videos, especially when we talking about the lore and the books and so on and so forth. I should write something down, and but I honestly don't have the time because with the work and the work around the house and the other hobbies, it's just really hard. Hopefully I will find somebody that I can talk with and have a better train of thought on this, and see what that comes up with, but it's going to be a little bit difficult to do it on a short-term basis. We'll see how things evolve if I can do something about it. Right, so let's talk a little bit about the painting process while I'm at it. I know I go from one topic to the other, but it's my process. I still have quite a lot of voiceovers to do, and my voice is getting a little bit tired. Also, it doesn't really help that I'm under considerable time pressure to get this video out while still in October. ORKTOBER. Alright, so I used, of course, lead belcher and rune lord brass all over the exhaust ports of his power armor, I'll say. I don't know whether it should be called Mega Knob armor or something like that, but yeah, we'll just go with power armor. It was fun, it was amazing to paint, painstakingly so, but it was overall fun. You may have noticed previously that I used a bit of metallic. I think it was either lead belcher or rune steel to go over any dings and scratches that appear in the armor. This gives the authentic feel to it and makes sure that it appears not only that when those things were made, not just the dimps were made, the cut, the deformation of the material, but also the paint, because you can see inside the metal. And again, coming over that with the orange wash increases the effect that this happened quite some time ago and that it had time to oxidize and to form rust. Now, I don't have any pigments yet, and I saw that some painters use those pigments, those orange pigments, to simulate like the actual flakes of metal coming off or stuff like that. I don't have those yet, and I don't think I will get any soon. But for now, for what I achieved with just paint, I'm more than happy with the effect. Right, again, switching topics, I wanted to talk more about orky thingies, because I'm not going to add a tag to this video if I'm not going to actually talk about orc lore and so on and so forth. Fun thing about orcs is if they truly do believe something hard enough, if all of them do believe it, then it's kind of sort of true. And again, this is another philosophical point that is touched upon in the book I mentioned, in Ghazghkull Thraka by Makari. And he explains that orcs can simultaneously accept and believe two contradictory stories. And what I mean by this is actually pretty cool. Just think about it. So at the same time, the same orc can have two completely and different and opposite notions in his head, and he will also believe both of them fully. I don't think you can. So the equivalent of, let's say, a mug is red or it's blue. Orcs can truly believe that that orc is both red and blue at the same time. So they're actually Schrodinger's orcs, so to speak. Yeah, I know, but just think about how odd and completely irrational such a thing would be if it could actually exist. and they can just simply accept this, that this is the way that they are and this is the way that how they see things. And it's a lovely little point that when you take into account that is a truly alien concept, truly alien, because we as humans cannot accept that a mug is both red and blue at the same time. I don't think you quite. I really hope that I'm making this clear, and I love the way that this was presented. Okay, and just to hammer, that was a fun fact about orcs, that they can believe two things at once. Another one is that through their belief, things are actually the way that they believe them. Now, this is taken to certain extremes, of course. It means, and there are plenty of them out there, but in the actual setting, it actually is true. And the simplest and most common form of example of this is that they believe that red is the fastest color, so they paint all of their vehicles red, and they actually go faster than the ones that are not painted. It doesn't make sense to us, but to them as aliens and as a specifically different psychic race, it makes perfect sense, because again, keep in mind that their power, so to speak, comes from when there are many orcs covering, becoming a war, and the more orcs there are, the bigger the power is, the more efficient that power also is. So if enough orcs believe that a gun will make a lot of damage, a big artillery piece will make a very big amount of damage, then that gun will make a lot of damage because the orcs believe it. It helps, of course, that since they made the gun and they made it so that it will make a lot of damage, it helps their belief that it will make a lot of damage, and the fact that they believe that it will make a lot of damage actually helps it to make a lot of damage. Am I making this clear, or is this more along the lines of, hey, he's just talking about orcs, so let's just trust him because, you know, he's talking about orcs and it just seems the way that it works? That is also another thing that is true with orcs. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You see, if the orcs believe, then it becomes true, and it becomes true because they believe in it. And when it becomes true, more believe in it, so it just keeps becoming truer, so to speak. And that is how their things function. So memes like a bunch of orcs joined hands together and said they became a tank. But the same thing is true in sort of reverse, and the memes are like a regiment of guardsmen ran out of ammunition, so the commissar told them to just make noises with their mouths and to keep shooting the orcs, and the orcs actually thought they were being shot at and started dying. And then the meme continuing saying that a bunch of orcs joined hands and they started saying, we're a tank, we're a tank, we're a tank, we're a tank. That's the meme. It's funny, but not until it doesn't go to such extremes. But for example, when the Mechanicum dissected captured orc and researched their weapons, they found out that that weapon should not be able to work. They specifically had a chopper, which is like a cutting instrument, and it was more along the lines of a chain axe. And they dismembered it and found that it couldn't possibly function. All the gears were rusted and sort of like fused shut, and you couldn't actually get the motor, didn't have enough power to actually turn the cogs and to make the chain axe whirl and so on and so forth. And when they took that piece, that chopper, that axe, and actually put it in like dead orc's hand, that chopper actually started to spin. Those chain thieves started to whirl and it started to run, which was incredible when you think about it. So just their proximity to the orc flesh just gave that weapon a simple way to run. And when they removed the weapon, it's simply shut down, which is odd. The same thing happened with a shooting one. When they took it out, they realized that the firing pin basically couldn't detonate the bolts in the gun. And when they put an orc to shoot with it, where they used an orc hand to shoot it, the bullets just came out. The same thing happened with the chain axe, and that is what is weird about it, because they simply believe that the gun will fire. The gun will actually fire. I don't know. It's a very crazy concept to believe, but then again, in 40k, there are gods and demons and psychic creatures that can throw lightning from their hands and other orifices. So, just saying, this is not that weird. And when you consider the fact that actually many orcs need to actually believe that the gun will fire before the gun will fire, because here's the thing: if only a handful of orcs gather, then they're basically primitive. So at best they will know how to make some stone axes and some slings at best. Gather a few hundreds, maybe they can imagine like gunpowder weapons and flintlocks and single shot pistols. Get a few thousands, maybe you're thinking semi-automatic and some steam powered war machines. Gather a few tens of thousands, we're talking combustion engines and fully automatic weapons. Gather a few millions, we might be talking about an actual war capable of shock weapons and teleporting squigs and actual space travel, because that's how it works. And they instinctively know how to make those weapons and instinctively believe that it will work. So I'm not saying that if enough orcs gather and they really believe hard enough, then all of a sudden they can teleport from one place or another. No. The process is a bit more complicated. Basically, when enough orcs gather in an area, then and you have enough for the conditions to be met, then some orcs just simply spawn, so to speak, as mech boys, which are orcs with incredible knowledge about how to make stuff. So then mech boys started popping up, and these mech boys know, oh, I have an idea. If we take this piece of junk that was left from a bike, from a Space Marine bike, with this piece of junk left from Imperial Guard tank, and with some parts of this Eldari jet bike that I just found lying around, and if we bash them together and hook up some wires, then I can make a different kind of gun that's going to shoot lightning across the battlefield. And I believe that will happen, and that orc tells another orc that, and that orc tells the rest of the orcs that, hey, this guy made it. And let's just say that he made like a very, very small arc throwy that would have reached maybe a meter with a function light, but all of the band now thinks that the Mech Boy has actually made a lightning cannon that will smite enemies across half the world. Then guess what? He's actually going to fire that thing and fry a few dozen Space Marines at 500 meters. And that is what's incredibly fun about the orcs, because they, like I said, they're a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because they believe it will happen, then it will happen. And because then it actually happens once, and it works. And more belief, and so it on and so on and so on. And then as they become stronger and they gather even more orcs, then the Mech Boys get even more knowledge and make greater stuff and so on. And then they managed to build spaceships with air quotes, with heavy air quotes, because the idea of a spaceship for an orc is that asteroid is over there, we're gonna go on it and build us a semi-livable habitat, again semi-livable, and just find a ship that has some engines and just take those engines and strap it to that thing and fly through space. At best. Or we get a ship, then we're just going to smash another ship into it and we're gonna fly the amalgamation of the two ships away. At some point, I think there was another joke that some mechs bashed together two trucks and it had two engines going basically the opposite way, and they were having a fight over which one, and then another mech came and hit them over the head and just said it should go sideways, and since after that the truck went sideways always, but it was just funny. Anyway, I don't know what I'm coming up with these. There are too many sources for me to handle, and I am not documenting everything. Just take my word for it. Right. Funny things. And more recommendations for orc books if you want to read them. There is Brutal Cunning, which is another amazing book about a different world, not Ghazghkull, but I want to get that guy as well. I think I don't think I know that the model and the character's name is Ufthak Blackhawk. Ufthak Blackhawk. I'm really bad with names at the moment, but yeah, he's absolutely brilliant. And his favorite, he has a pet, and this is a true story. This has stuck into my head because I was like, so epic. But I need to explain it because it just is the culmination of a story. Alright, I'm getting a little ahead of this. So this guy, the most awesome thing that he does is he takes a shock Draksta, which is one of their vehicles which can briefly teleport forward, and manages to find a ramp, launch his shock Draksta off that ramp, teleport through the shields of an inheritor or a warlord, I think it was a warlord, of a warlord titan, re-emerge inside of the shield, smash into the body of the warlord titan, get inside of the warlord titan through the hatches, slaughter the crew, and all this time he is, while he's doing this, he's having a fight with his Gretchen and his Squig, and just being funny all about it. And then letting aside all of the absolutely insane stuff that he did in order to get there and how he did it, then he tries to read in Imperial Gothic the name that is above the command throne, and instead of reading Princeps, which is the title of the person in charge of the Titan, he reads Princess, and he gives the squig the name Princess because it must be something terrifying that will terrify his foes in battle. I mean, Mike Brooks just can't make this stuff up. That's the guy who wrote Brutal Cunning. It's absolutely insane. Go check that book, as well as Ghazghkull Thraka, Prophet of Rock. I mentioned them. They're absolutely awesome if you want to laugh out loud. Entire book about sci-fi space mushrooms in the 40K again. Ooh, yeah, so many. Going forward from that, I think he literally bashed his head in a mechanical shield, which was underpowered, but he manages to bash his head. We're talking about Blackhawk here. He manages to bash his head against the shield until it actually collapses and goes through. Oh, there are so many moments that are absolutely insane. I would say Ghazghkull Thraka is more serious than Ulfar, but the other one's funnier. I swear, it's just like insane. Alright, taking a short break from the lore and the books, painting checkers, checkered patterns on orcs is absolutely a fun process. I think I did it, I tried to do it as well on the Ghazghkull, but I failed there because I didn't know what I was doing. But this was fun. It came out looking absolutely amazing, and I'm really happy with the result. And it was really easy. I had plenty of room and I could get my brush everywhere. But yeah, that was fun. Yeah, it takes a long time to do it because especially the way I did it, which was white over black and then black to cover every slip and so on and so forth. But it was so much fun that I would honestly do it again. And I was a little afraid to do it on his chin, but it worked out there great there as well, and it was really easy. Either that, or I'm starting to get the hang of brush control. Bear in mind that I don't spend 8 hours a day or even a few hours a day painting. I just do it when I find the time and when I'm really feeling inspired and so on. So the skills and the reflexes kind of stick, so you don't lose them even if you don't do it as like full time or this is your only hobby, because as will be implied hopefully by the new branding on my channel, I have a lot of hobbies instead of just one and good. I like video games, I like painting, I like board games, I like working around the house and building stuff and doing stuff. I like spending time with my kids and biking and so on. So it just is a lot of things that I do. So yeah, this is gonna be fun. I can't wait for the kids to grow up and paint with me, but that's coming then. Alright, again, I really am getting off topic. But then again, I have to fill like 2 hours of my painting video. I really need to shorten it by a lot. Oh boy, the horns. The horns were a difficult process for me because I couldn't figure out how to best do them, and I had to go with a lot of layers in the end. Okay, they were really thin, had good coverage, but I couldn't figure out how I wanted to make them, and I didn't know if I wanted the darker path towards the base and the brighter towards the points. In the end, I went with like the box art thingy and used not even paint. I just used glazes, which are shades that are further thinned down just to get the effect I want. For the base, as you can see, I haven't concentrated that much on the base up until this point. I wanted to do or keep it as simple as possible, and it was really difficult for me to get underneath, and in the end I decided to just rip the model off the base and to put it back after I paint the base. But that's coming later down the thingy, and I'm not sure I even filmed that. Other than that, right now I'm doing a lot of detail work because this model really has a lot of details and things that I wanted to get right. And so many rivets. I'm not liking this part of bookkeeping because so many rivets are on these models. Makes sense because they wouldn't know any other way of putting things together. But still, it was fun. Yeah, sorry about that. I had a little yawn because it's really getting tiring to speak so much, and I still have quite some time before the end of the video. Again, sorry if I'm bored. Let's see what else I can think about or lore. Ooh, we haven't even touched upon the War of the Beasts. So, okay, wow. How do you even get started on the War of the Beasts? Alright, so remember I said that there were these crocs for the war in heaven, and then when that things ended and there wasn't anybody left over to truly fight with, they kind of degenerated into orcs, plus the Eldars were the ones that kind of inherited the galaxy, and they kind of made sure that the orcs would never become crocs again, so they periodically called them. After that, the biggest thing that happened in the galaxy was kind of the appearance of man, of humans in the galaxy, which had their golden age of technology, and they took over the galaxy. And then our decline, and of course in the 30th millennium with the appearance of Emperor and the Great Crusade to reconquer the galaxy. All this, not much to be said about the orcs, which of course were kicked in their asses during the Great Crusade, because again, we're talking millions upon millions of space marines across regions, because not millions upon millions, just let me do a quick math. So Killerman had about 250,000, and that was like the biggest one, but there were 20 of them. 100,000 20. If you add a zero, that becomes so 2 million, roughly about 3 to 4 million, probably Astartes. That's a force that can conquer a galaxy. Okay, so during the Horus Heresy, 3 to 4 million Astartes basically made sure that a lot of Xeno races died, and they killed a lot of orcs, including their biggest campaign, which was Olenor, and where the orcs were defeated, but they almost killed the emperor if he wasn't saved by horse. But the orcs were defeated, and for 3,000 years after that, they were pretty much unheard of in the galaxy. But since nobody bothered to, keep an eye on them, they kind of made like the biggest war that ever existed up until that point. And also they had orcs almost the size of crocs, if not bigger, but not enough of them. And those guys were, and the biggest one of them was called the Beast. And with this much war energy, what could they achieve? Well, they achieved that they had plenty, and I mean plenty, as in quite more than several attack moves. And yes, that sounds exactly what they are. So think Death Star, except instead of full of imbecilic white-dressed stormtroopers, filled with angry green mushrooms that are more than happy to tear out your face. Yes, I know which one I would gladly face off if I was given the choice. And they managed to destroy several chapters of Space Marines in the 33rd millennium, and then they managed to park one of those attack moons right in Terra's orbit, which is insane when you think about it, considering the amount of defenses that Terra has and that Sol system has. And there was almost nothing that the Imperial Navy or Space Marines could do. Of course, in the end, that attack moon was defeated by, of course, humanity applying some of the tactics of the orcs, namely just sending waves upon waves of almost unarmed civilians to literally drown out the orcs in a tide of human flesh. Let's just say that millions died, but when you count that in terms of billions, you are okay with tens of, maybe even hundreds of millions of deaths. Because nothing can stand in the wake of several billion anythings. But yes, the attack moves were eventually defeated, and Vulcan actually killed one of the bigger beasts. I don't know, it's really complicated with the beast itself and its lieutenants. And then through a lot of sacrifices, the beast was defeated, and the orcs were pushed back. But yeah, that was the War of the Beasts, and that is the main reason that the Death Watch exists, and why humanity in the 41st millennium and since then has made sure that the orcs do not get a chance to form up in such large wars. Right, so as I was saying, the problem with the books is like I was talking about the War of the Beast, is that which are a series of books, just like the Horus Heresy or Ghazghkull series, and while they are about orcs, they mostly focus on the Imperium's perspective of these Xenos. There are very few books which are written from the Xenos perspective. And I've already mentioned the ones that I know about, which were Brutal Cunning, War Boss, and Ghazghkull Prophet of the Fog. But that's basically it. Those and even Ghazghkull had a lot of it from the point of view of the Imperium. The rest, they don't really focus on the Xenos themselves, rather their view, the view of the Imperium of them, which makes sense as we are meant to, you know, root for the humans and to understand them, but there are many aspects that we are missing, and honestly I think that more Black Library authors should try and write more books from this perspective of Xenos races, because they are the most fun to write. I mean, just I never laughed so hard as I did when reading the Orc books with any Warhammer books. They are absolutely amazingly fun. Okay. What more should I add and bring up to discussion? Thinking. This is me just taking time to let my voice a little bit rest and my mind to wander and bring up awesome moments that should be. I'm honestly thinking that I will try and get more actual book reviews, but I can't really get my wife to listen or read some of the books, and she's not really into Warhammer, but I want to get her to read them or to listen to them, because I want to sort of make her do my reviews for me, because she's a high school teacher. It's kind of in her wheelhouse, making commentaries on literary text as well. But that's a me problem, so to speak, and like you know, and see, I'm really hard at work. I'm doing that as well, convincing my wife to read some Warhammer books. I was honestly almost got her hooked on listening The Last Church, but that's a different that's a story for a different time, because I need to focus and talk about orcs, as it is ORKTOBER. I have no idea when the thing with ORKTOBER started and what's going on, but I kind of can guess, since Orc and October, it's pretty close, and that's how people started it. And since this is a thing I started working on, I wanted to get on it, and it's really fun to go out of my comfort zone, so to speak, with the Tyranids and the Space Marines, because that's what I painted so far, and do some of the stuff. And I really am thinking that next year I want to get Ufthak. Unless, of course, this channel really picks up by then and I have to do something big, in which case I'm thinking Gargant. But that is a big if and a huge hope on mine. But it would be awesome, wouldn't it? I mean, Gargants. I haven't talked about what Gargants are. Alright, so what are Gargants? Remember I told you that mech boys simply know how to build stuff. Well, if a WOG has enough orcs in it and the WOG energy is big enough, then the mech boys, the mech knobs, and the really smart engineers of the orcs start getting ideas that they want to make effigies to Gork and or more. And those effigies take the form of gargants, which are the orc equivalent of titans. While most of them are definitely not as powerful as their Imperial analog or their Eldar analog, and because again they're all made out of scrap, and whereas the Imperium's titans are powered by plasma reactors, have killer energy weapons, and so on and so forth. Yeah, orc guns can literally be coal or steam powered. I kid you not. And whereas a Imperial Titan is controlled by a Princeps and its Moderati, a crew containing between 3 to maybe like I want to say 10 for like the biggest ones, like the Imperators, with many other for the Imperators security crew and so on and so forth, but they're not actually controlling the machine. The Orc Gargants are controlled by Gretchen all over the interior, and other orcs, and each of the like tens, maybe hundreds of orcs just pulling out levers and bashing stuff to get it to work, and that's how it actually functions, and it just works. And these effigies, when it comes to weapons, have like the almost equivalent of Imperial ones in the form of huge chain weapons. And when it comes to guns, they literally just take the biggest guns that they can find and just hammer them into the or put them on platforms on the target. And if by some freaking miracle they do find like a giant energy weapon, they'll bolt that on there too, or even at this point they might have access to graviton weapons, which can shift the gravity for vehicles or units and stuff. It's really weird. That's just fun. And these come in different sizes, like gargants, mega gargants, bigger mega gargants, and so on and so forth. The biggest one I think that I know of was the one in Hell's Reach, which managed to destroy relatively wounded Imperator, which in theory nothing can kill an Imperator short of named demon princes, greater demons, and so on and so forth, and even those, if they have plenty of time, and so on and so forth, or Primarchs, because reasons, and so on and so forth. But in theory, an Imperator is literally a walking city with guns large enough to destroy whole armies all on their own. I think you can see for like one, maybe two Imperators in Space Marine 2. There are. I honestly, while I was playing, I didn't see it. I think I must have missed it because I wasn't looking up for the scenery at the right moment. But I've seen people pointing those out, and I might just go back or I will definitely keep an eye out on when I do the co-op missions. Maybe you can see it there. I haven't gone to the co-op missions. I'm just waiting for somebody to buy the game so we can play it in co-op and have fun. I will record everything and we will be discussing more about Warhammer in general. So yeah, looking forward to that as well. Oh boy, still 15 minutes to go in this video before I can announce that there will be final shots. What else can I possibly talk about the orcs at this point? I think you already have like a primer for all things that are orky in the Warhammer universe. And yeah, I am honestly stumped for ideas. Let's just say that they are responsible for some of the funniest moments in the entire lore of the universe. Could be mentioning that Traz in the Infinite, which is a Necron librarian who likes to collect things from all the galaxy, has a Croc in his collection, but everybody knows that at this point. What else? Fun tidbits. I mentioned that orcs believe that different colors make different things, and I mentioned that the red ones go faster. You also heard me talk about Goths, which are like clans, because orcs are sort of a lineage, let's say, and they gather in these clans, so to speak, but it doesn't really have anything to do with genetics. Anyway, the Goth clan and Ghazghkull Thraka is a Goth. The Goths are considered the toughest of the orcs, and their main color is black, which is the toughest color. Then yellow is for wealth, and that is with the Flash Kids, which are all fancy orcs who really like to show off all their wealth. And the reason that they're so wealthy is that their teeth grow the fastest, because thieves' teeth are the orc civilization's currency, because their teeth decay and they're also replaced. So if you're going as an orc, you go out to grab a grog with some of your buddies, and you sort of find out that, oh, you are a little short on change. You're just gonna punch a random orc down the street and smash his teeth out and just grab a handful in order to pay for your drink. And this is generally going to be considered a good time by everybody, even the guy who gets punched because he has to fight you back, and so on. It's orc society. And the Flash Kids are the ones that have the fastest teeth, and so hence they're the richest orcs and the most wealthy, and their color is mostly yellow. Then you have the Speed Freaks, which basically is any orc that really wants to go fast, and you can imagine that their favorite color is of course red. And apparently, literally, they just, when they're at their spaceships, they just want to make the spaceship go faster, and when they are on a planet and in a war, they just want to race their trucks and their tanks and their buggies wherever they can. They often just blaze on through a certain objectives just in order to keep on going, to, you know, just go fast. Alright, and then we have the Bad Moons. No, the Bad Moons were then what were the Flash Kids? Oh man, I messed this up. I messed this up badly. Don't take my word for it because again, I'm right. I'm doing this off the top of my head. All right, so there are flash gits, but I don't remember what their shtick is. I know they're really fancy and everything, but other than that, no. The bad ones were the ones that were the wealthiest ones, and their favorite color is yellow. I know the flash gits are like really fancy ones, and I think their thing is like tech. And because I think the thingy with the flash gits is with the tech, as they know as much tech as possible. And yeah, all right. Then you have the Orc Pirates, which are the freebooters. Yeah, that's the thing. Basically, they like spaceships and they're pirates. Orc pirates in space. What could be more fun than that? And I can't think of anybody else from the top of my head. Other funny colors that the orcs like are, or have meaning to the orcs, are of course blue, which is the color for luck, and a meme is that when orcs fight ultramarines, they know they're gonna lose because if all the ultramarines are blue, that means they're the luckiest ever, since they're all blue. The color green is the best, of course, because orcs are green. And of course, purple is the color for stealth. And you don't really want to know the logic behind this one because it's the most stupid, idiotic thing you can possibly imagine. So one orc goes to the other one. The color for stealth is purple, and the other one goes, why? And the first one goes, think about it. Have you ever seen a purple orc? And the second guy goes like, no. Well, there you go. And that's it. The color purple, because there are no purple orcs. I mean, yeah. Therefore, it's stealth. And of course, the meme was that the orcs simply would smash over a purple painted car because they couldn't see it. And that makes perfect sense to me. Because orcs. Right. Oh, and there is another clan that I wanted to mention, and that I mentioned in passing when I discussed. And there is another thing that I want to mention, but we'll get to that in a second. So, there are the Blood Axes. The Blood Axes are the most practical of orcs in the sense that they are mostly mercenaries, which literally anybody can hire, including the Imperium, the Eldar, other orcs, and the Ekrons if they're feeling really. They'll work for anybody. Even Chaos can in theory buy their participation in a conflict, and they are pragmatic to a fault, so to speak. Basically, they'll do whatever you ask as long as you pay them. They're rather simple in that way, but they're also very, very smart and cunning, as the orcs would put it. For example, in order to interrogate Makari, the Inquisition requested the aid of one of the Blood Axes orcs, because Makari was thought that he could not speak Imperial Gothic in any shape or form, low or high level. So they got this orc, which was quite eloquent in both low Gothic, which was quite eloquent in low Gothic, and could speak the grunt-like language of the Gretchens, what it sounded like to the Inquisitor. More along, not necessarily grunt, but more along the lines of grunt, yips, and yaps, and so on and so forth. And he was translating for the Inquisition interrogator, who was in charge of finding out information. Ooh, I'm really losing my voice. The final group of orcs that I want to talk about before just cutting this, even if I have to cut it short, are going to be the orc commandos, which is very funny. When I first read about these guys and found out about these guys, apparently, whereas as you would imagine, a society based on random violence, who's the biggest does the guy to follow, doesn't really work well with discipline. But the orc commandos are the rebels in the society. And how do you rebel against a chaotic society? With discipline. So the orc commandos are orcs that actually have tactics, who actually train, and who it was said that actually spend time on their appearance and uniforms, take time to polish their boots, often stay in formation instead of charging forward, hold their positions when it's advantageous, and can be relied upon to, follow orders, which is quite difficult for an orc. Then again, most orc orders are charge forward and kill whatever is getting in your way. So yeah, that's all nice and well when you have a war, but if you want something, preserved, like a strategic defensive point, because you might need to hold that point, that's not really something that your regular orc troops can handle. And that's why there are orc commandos, and these guys also like to strap giant rockets to their back and become storm boys, because you need a bit of discipline instead of just putting a rocket on your back and slamming into the first wall you see and dying. These guys need to have some discipline in order to be able to control themselves and their flight, because again, it's not exactly a jetpack, a Space Marine jetpack, which can be controlled. No, this is a literal solid state chemical burn rocket. Yeah, I'm not really. They're still orcs. There's no way a Space Marine would do that. There's no way Guardsman would do that, or any sane creature would ever ponder such a thing. But these are orcs, and they'll meet Gork and Mork soon enough, and they want to have a very awesome story to tell Gork and Mork that they flew using a rocket and slammed into some Space Marines and chopped them in half and stuff like that. Wow, those are orcs. I hope you enjoyed all the facts that I've been spouting over here for the past 2 hours, as well as some painting tips and how I did Ghazghkull over here. It was quite difficult for me because doing the base that I wanted to mention, since we're at the base, I don't have any of that scenic sealant, and you can see I'm trying to blend the debris with the base, and it just wasn't working. this is the best solution that I got, but as soon as you tilt it and shake it, it can shift around and it can have an odd shape to it when you do it like this. But after repeated appliances of this, it was okay, and it came out looking, oh, I liked it. And bear in mind, like I mentioned, I was not able to film the entire process, and I had at some point to rip him off in order to be able to paint all of the details underneath Ghazghkull and his other side. Right, well, we are definitely reaching the end of the video up at this point, and I still have the final shots to do, because the final shots have not been done yet while I am editing this and doing the voiceovers. So I'm going to humbly apologize for not sticking around the absolute very end of this, but my voice is giving out and I need to take a break. So, and we're already at the end right about now, so I will just say, hey, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and share it with a friend. I really hope I see you in the next one, and that in just over a year. Bye bye.